It is the Namra Podcast. It is Taylor, Russ, Sahil, and Justin. It is After Hours.
Well, I think the first thing that we wanted to talk about is, people always ask, how can we grow organically? Sometimes people talk about how organic reach is dead on Facebook or Instagram. It's obviously not true. It might be a little bit difficult for businesses to gain traction on social, but it's important to figure out what your goals are. And talking about today, Russ and I always talk about this. The difference between growing your social media platform for numbers' sake, vanity metrics, and actually achieving your business goals through social media. So the difference between number of likes and followers versus, is this thing driving business? Are we getting the right brand awareness? Exactly. So Russ, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is like the main thing that you have to think about when you're getting started and even talking to a marketing company for the first time. Like, that's kind of the first conversation we try to have with clients is, what are you actually trying to achieve? Because a lot of people come to us and they're like, well, we just want to blow up on social media. And we have to say, well, what does that really mean? Because if your North Star is just to be like an influencer with 15 million followers, that's great. And there's a strategy for that. But most people come to us with a service-based business and they're just looking to grow their like local business and local connections. And so what we have to explain to them is, look, like, this isn't about going viral, being famous, getting 1 million followers. It's about getting maybe 1,500 of the right followers. And we kind of reverse engineer the strategy back from that. And like, you look at our profiles or the profiles of many of our clients, it's not necessarily that they're massive following wise, but their sphere of influence is so influential that like the 500 people who do follow them and listen to them and consume their content are the 500 people that it's like the only 500 people they're ever going to need.
Yep. It's taking what's already made you successful in person and accentuating that on social media and using social media as a tool to reach your goal. Because some people do want to blow up and be viral and be famous. Like if you're an IG model or whatever it is, maybe you're an influencer. Maybe
and that's a goal.
That's a goal.
Yep.
So it's about setting clear goals. And I hate to use these like the like marketing terms, but like the SMART goal, right? But it does make sense when you're starting off. I can never say, okay, our goal is going to be to get you to 2,500 followers or whatever. If a client comes to me and they're like, this is my goal, I have to stop and we have to go back and have a longer discussion. Being a social media marketing agency is not about just getting you more followers, because I could just post like hot chicks or like cat gifs or funny memes, and get you followers,
to getting
become
more
a meme
attention.
page. But that doesn't achieve your business goal. So we need to outline those goals first, and then figure out who are we trying to provide value to get them to give a shit about your content. And once they care about your content, then they'll follow, right?
And a lot of our
go ahead, Sil. Well, would you guys agree that any content strategy, regardless of business, like industry, what you're trying to do, what your goals are, objectives, all of that, it all derives from like keeping your audience in mind.
That's the whole
and what
thing,
keeps your audience coming back for more. Like those are the two like biggest things to consider. And then it goes to who is your audience, and then why are they gonna keep coming back to you? Now, going off of those things, reverse engineering from that, you can figure out the different, methods or what you're going to release. Or, maybe if your goal is to go, viral and have 15 million followers one day, okay. Or do you want those 1,500 followers that are like return business every single time? They're converting on every single one of your videos. It's regardless of the goal, it's who is your audience, and why are they going to come back to you?
And that's the thing. You add value, and obviously adding value on social media is kind of a buzz term, but it's split into two things. It's either education or entertainment. Those are like the two.
100%.
That's the fork in the road, and you can do a mix of that, but every post has to have some level of one of those two things to add value.
To jump in, like, to even take that a step back, I think my biggest job when I'm working with a new client or a prospect is to first figure out what are those goals and is the audience correct? because your target audience is not it's not a subjective thing. Like there is a right and wrong answer to that.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times the clients don't know the right answer.
So for that class, I do a social media marketing class, fundamentals of social media marketing. Okay.
Which is awesome.
It's fantastic. Most boring YouTube video, period. But okay. The number one thing that I always go back to when we talk about like target audience is there was a moving company I was working with, and I was talking to them about who's your target audience. He's been very successful for 25 years. And he goes, I think it's like guys, 40 to 45, the people who are either like moving down or moving up in their homes, da-da-da-da-da. We looked at like his Google Analytics, and it was 80% women. 80% women were searching him out on social, website, everything, because he didn't realize that women were the decision maker and they were the ones who were evaluating alternatives. So I was like, first off, wrong, wrong, not my opinion. Okay. That's important to keep in mind. If you don't have the right target audience, if you're not setting the right goals, everything else is kind of fucked. Like seriously, if you have the wrong starting point, everything else is messed up. That's why it's so important. That's why we can't just come in. And I have clients all the time or prospects say, okay, can we do this next week? It's like, I don't know anything about
when am I going to see return?
It's like you have to put in the legwork if you believe in social media long term.
I think that goes along with the fact that a lot of the clients that we start with, especially new kind of launches that we do, they have all these awesome, great ideas, but at the same time, like, you're not out on social media. No one knows who you are. So if you just come in with this awesome video, like you haven't laid that groundwork foundation first, which is huge, very, very important that a lot of people overlook.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's why that matters so much, right? Based on your goal and the strategy, it impacts the form of media that you're going to use on these platforms. And based upon the form of media that you use, that's going to either accomplish your goal or it's not going to accomplish your goal. And it goes back to that question of who is your audience and why are they going to come back to you? Based on, an example of this is what I mean by right form of media. Based on your goal, maybe for that goal, video will be the best form of media. Or maybe graphic will be the best form. You will never know until you establish what Taylor just said. Like, what actually are you trying to do here? Like, are you even, following the right strategy in the first place? And from there, you do want to answer that question. Like, it's, from the marketing standpoint, we're trying to figure out creative ways of content and what we're going to shoot or what we're going to make, all of that. But it's to answer that fundamental of, are we using the right form?
Yeah. And I think people don't even necessarily know, just to lay some groundwork. Go over it in fundamentals of social media. There's 4 things you can do.
Dude, I'm telling you, that presentation's phenomenal. You think it's boring. I think it's phenomenal. People, dude, we recently had someone ask for that presentation.
Oh,
remember?
yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, people find a lot of value in that. Taylor thinks that is boring, but that is a phenomenal presentation. Okay, it is. And he looks good when he's presenting.
Yeah.
So it's
there's 4 things you can do. Going back to that point, people get overwhelmed. They're like, what am I going to post? There's only 4 options. Keep it simple, right? You can post a video or a GIF or whatever, a photo, some sort of graphic, or like text / reposting a blog or something like that, an article or a link off to a different page.
It's either a still or a video.
A still,
it's a moving content or it's a still. Yeah. Whether the still is a photo, graphic, whatever it is, or whether the video is an animated video that you made on Canva, or whether it's a high produced, production, it's either it's moving or it's not. So like those are the 2 categories.
And I think a big thing to go off of that point is to recognize what type of social media that you're using. So Instagram is completely different than Facebook, even though that they're still owned by the same company. There's different strategies, and there's different
100%.
Yeah. So, and another thing I want to touch on too is not a lot of people know is as Instagram is evolving, obviously the algorithm is consistently changing. Right now, in the time that we're in, Instagram is focusing more on creating and pushing video content rather than photography, which has a lot of people stirred up, and there's a lot of debate because
people still think Instagram, it's a photo app.
Right.
Not true.
Right.
And more specifically, they're pushing and heightening reels, IG reels.
Right. So then if you have that knowledge, and whether you do it yourself or you're pairing with a team like you guys or us, like, you have to understand what those differences are in order to maximize what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to the next piece. Once you figure out who your target audience is, you need to figure out the methodology of which you're going to post, you know, where you're posting, what type of content.
To keep them coming back to you.
Right. The kind of piece in the middle that bridges that gap is what I call like the attention equation. And that is really simple. It's the amount of value you can provide your target audience over time is in exact proportion. It's equal to the amount of interaction, likes, all those vanity metrics. That is always going to be true.
Yeah.
The amount of value you provide your target audience in your posts, whatever it is, that's how much attraction you're going to get over time. And I stress the over time part because it goes back to Justin's point. If you have a social media page with 0 followers and you post a freaking Super Bowl commercial, it's not going to do good. I could post anything on a well-developed
It's the
page.
Reputation behind the Super Bowl commercial that converts.
Yep, exactly.
And you have to, it just takes a while to build the reputation. And I think like a mistake a lot of people make, like probably the best example of this is like the real estate industry or like insurance, just like those service-based industries that we tend to work with, where like a mistake that, let's say, a real estate agent could make is putting all of those marketing efforts towards like making yourself the real estate influencer, but not doing a good job connecting with your referral partners, where that's where you get 80% of your business. And if you told us that up front, then we're like, okay, you're saying like you could have all the followers in the world and you might get, you know, 50 new calls from consumers. But if we got you one new referral partner over the course of the year, it would pay for the next 5 years of our services. It would, like flush. It's huge success. Great success.
Great success.
That goes back to actually a real world example of that. I was working with a chiropractor. Okay. One of those like types of people, chiropractic doctors, it all kind of is the same from a strategy standpoint. They were going B2C, so business to consumer was their strategy. And they were doing well. They were picking up a lot of traffic on social, getting really good engagement, but it didn't really move the needle with business. Like on the business side. It was good for like vanity metrics. He felt good about himself. He liked the likes. He liked a little bit of ego there. Yep. And that's fine. That's part of the strategy, but that's not an entire strategy. So what we did is we created content around their sphere of influence. So I was like, okay, what if we got like 1/3 the likes, but we started doing cross promotion videos with people who pass you all of your business, AKA attorneys, other people in health and wellness. What if you started building relationships with those? If you developed one new really good referral partner, how much would that be worth over a year, 5 years? Right. Is it, and compare that to if you get one new client or lead.
Right.
And it was like, he's like, oh my God, like I've been totally swinging.
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to go back, you know, going back to the fundamental, right? The pain point was, how do you improve your social media content for effectiveness? Okay, we already established that the core roots of that, no matter what industry, what goal you have, what objective is, who is your audience? Why are they going to keep coming back to you? Right?
Correct.
So if you have established that, now if you are without a strategy to tackle those 2 points, you know, regardless of what form of media you are, going back to your example, Taylor, of like, you know, you might be releasing what you see out there of what you believe is to be, oh my God, I'm going to get a bunch of followers. I mean, and we're going to go into it, you know, a little bit later of how like, okay, don't just look at the number of followers, like look at the number of qualified leads actually following your business. Because personally, I would rather take the 50 followers that convert every single time than the 1,000 followers that don't engage with you.
Well, a lot of our clients aren't they're not social media models,
right.
So their income is based off
everyone.
that.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, who is your audience? Why are they going to keep coming back to you? And then choosing the right form of media. And the next step, going back into what you're saying, it's like making sure you have the right strategy behind your content so that they do keep coming back to you and they are getting value every single time. And then you keep building off of that. So that way it's like you are minimizing what you have to spend in ad spend to keep getting these eyes, and they're just going to keep coming back to you because you're delivering value. So it's like you need to know exactly, and we can help you with this. You know, it's like, and we're always happy to brainstorm. It's like, because digital marketing is a complicated space. It's like you see so much out there. you know, there's so much that you're trying to replicate. Oh, I saw this guy try, you know, do this. I want to do this. No, like, what's right for your local market?
Yeah. Yep.
What's right for you? What's right for your business? And then like reverse engineering from that. Okay, like this is your audience. This is who you're working with. What's going to be the right form of media for this person? Let's reverse engineer from there. And now let's tackle these goals that you have. Like, it's like, all right, let's release this. How can we monitor this? And then so on. So
it kind of goes to like what we were talking about before too, where a lot of potential clients or even current clients, like they'll have the wrong role models when it comes to social media. It goes back to what we were saying just about like personal social media use and how like your mental health can be affected if you're comparing your life to everybody else's Instagram. Like you could be comparing your business to the guy that has 100,000 followers as like a doctor or whatever. But you have no idea what's really happening in his practice. He might get no referrals, and just because he's famous on TikTok doesn't mean he's absolutely crushing.
There are people out there who are kicking ass in social media, but they're not getting a paycheck in the mail.
And so it's like you have to figure out what's actually going on, and that's what we're here to help people with. And then to your point too, where like it's our job to come up with the strategy. The overarching general strategy that everybody should be aware of is that consistency is key, and that allows you to evolve to be able to create more hyper-focused content that adds more value to your audience. And the only way to do that is to, especially in the first like 6 months, like, because we're talking long-term, like 5-10 years, like, you know, the foundation of what you do on social media in 5 or 10 years from now is going to be built around the content that you test in the first 6 months. Like what graphic did work? What video got shared 50 times when all the other videos got shared twice?
Why?
Maybe that topic is something that you want to make a lot of content around. Maybe that's a huge lane that we go down in the future. You don't know unless you've kind of made like a good, even suite of content to test.
Yep.
And the one thing we can say from experience is we've worked with the you know, multiple, you know, thousands of followings that are getting no traction to like, okay, getting the 50, 100 followers that are getting full traction and actually helping scale the business, you know? So it's
most
like
successful clients have the least amount of followers, but they're high quality followers. They could have 150 followers, but it's like, man, they are getting a lot of business long-term approach. Referrals.
Yeah,
exactly. So,
and that goes to the next point that I just wanted to say is that's where people, I hear it all the time where it's like, you don't even need to post, you just need to run ads. Well, that's not true, because like you said, those people with say 100 followers or whatever, and they run ads strategically, they have amazing content on their page so that when one of those people come across that ad, click through, what's the next thing they're going to do when weighing an alternative, right? Okay, and what I mean by that is if you're a retail shop, you run an ad for, you know, a handbag or whatever. Great. Now, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to go to your social media pages. They're going to look through everything else in the catalog. They're going to go to the website. And if they see shit, or if they see no profile picture on the Facebook page and no content, they're going to be like, is this a scam?
It was just an ad.
It was just an ad. That's how they're going to look at you. They're not going to associate that ad with a brand. They're just going to say, oh, it's just an ad. It's just Fugazi, whatever. That's why organic is so important. Not always for the traction, but for the long-term branding.
What allows you
to it goes back to what Russell has said in previous podcasts, where it's like, it's all about simplicity also, where it's like
Russell.
Yeah. Where it's like, why are they going back to you? It's like, do they actually value you for that simplistic, where they like learned something and now they're following you, where it's, you know, it's like you're adding value to them? Or it's like, is it based on just like all these just fabricated, you know, realities that you feel like is the success tool of Instagram, where it's like, honestly, what have we learned through our experience of like what, 7 years, 8 years of running a digital marketing agency and like previous years prior? It's like no one really cares. It's all about like what audience you're chasing, what business you're in, what industry, like why are they going to keep coming back to you? And it's like, it's all about like going back to that. Like, are you addressing their main pain points in a value added way? Are you understand like yes or not?
Yeah. Do you understand these people?
If the answer is no, then they will not come back to you.
That's it.
It does not matter if you have 150,000 followers, 1 million followers, or 1,500. It's like, that's it.
And when
like Taylor said, full stop.
Like back to adding value too, like education, entertainment, all that's great. And but the attention over time is earned. Like you can kind of use ads as a way to like reel in a large audience of like new people. But once they're following you, that's your excuse to now have longer form content on. Like
what's the value of having a follower with no content?
Right. Like a 30-second ad to get somebody on your page is great, but you should have a good 5-minute
something
video,
that makes people stay.
Longer captions, right. Like some more actual real. It's never a post that would convert as an ad itself on your page, but people are more likely to read a longer caption from you or like watch that 15-minute video or like Taylor, like, you know, the 20-minute YouTube video where we're educating you about any number of topics. People watch that when they know us and they've established who we are. They respect our opinion enough to consume our longer form content, but that's earned. Right. And if you're starting, goes back to the consultation too, right? It's like, we have to know who you know. Like if you are a person who just started your business and you've never networked and you've never made any real business connections, that's okay. But that is a realistic like audit position of where you're starting at. And actually, that's part of the plan is like, you have to understand you're at ground zero. No one knows you. Yep. So you have to work your way up to the point where you are as influential as these people who you look up to.
You need to put
time,
yourself,
just like it takes time in your real career. It takes sometimes a few years before you build enough momentum among your audience where they respect you enough to consume your longer stuff.
So let me jump in for 1 second. And I think we can give like some practical advice here. Say you are that person. You're a real estate agent with no following and you're trying to use social media as a tool. If you're open-minded enough to say, okay, I'm open to hearing your suggestion. My suggestion would be, how can we use social media as a tool to grow your business? Okay, not necessarily going viral, but what if we use social media and video content as a strategy to get in front of some of those people that otherwise you'd have no chance of getting to? If I just email, you know, a high-end real estate agent, like a rainmaker, and say, let's grab coffee, you're not going to get a response. But if I say, hey, would you like to do a cross-promotional video? I want to talk about what's made you successful. I like this, this, and this. You'll get a reply back because why not take the free marketing? It's worth a half hour of their time.
Right.
That is an actual method of using social to cross-promote, to grow your business. And it's a great strategy for someone who's new in the area, who's trying to get ingrained in the local community.
And Taylor, off that point, I just want to briefly say that's another great strategy too, is if you're doing something where you really are based off of bringing other people onto your show or your content or whatever, you know, if you have those consistent people coming in and over time you build up, like, you know, I don't know if you want to say like their popularity or whatever, like people will want to see that you've been experienced with working with other individuals. You know, you can't just jump from no content up to working with like a Gary Vee or something for an example. Yeah. You need to show people that you're available and that you're you're doing.
Build up.
I think what social media does a terrible job of, based just, you know, on the algorithms itself, is it makes you believe that these anomalies are the fact, right? You have to understand the people that you are following, the people that have 1 million followers, 2 million followers, maybe 15 million.
They're outliers.
It's well, not all of them, but it's like majority of them are like outliers. They had a lot of trend stacking in place, and I'll talk about trend stacking, you know, in a little bit, where you know it's the foundation of going viral. Actually, there's people that have studied the science behind going viral, and they've attributed to you know, trend stacking. But aside from all of that, where it's like if you're really trying to accomplish it, you cannot compare yourself to these things. Like you know, you
have to compare yourself.
Yes, you want to compare yourself to those because that's what social media is designed to do. But it's like you just cannot, because that's not a realistic strategy. That's not a realistic strategy for your local market, or who you're trying to, you know, actually convert into business later on, who you're trying to solve the pain points for. Like a Massachusetts local market is way different from a California local market. You know, it's like you can't just duplicate the person that you're following on Instagram who's based out of San Francisco, California, that has 15 million followers, and you're trying to like, oh, I saw this guy do this. Like, no, it's like, no.
Well,
like,
you have to
how about your local market?
You have to earn the reputation still. Yep. Like, all the marketing in the world doesn't make you the person that you're trying to make everybody think you are. Like, you actually have to be that person. Like, Gary Vee is probably the best example, right? Like, somebody who everybody looks at as the North Star of social media. Like, man, if I could only be as big as Gary Vee and have as much influence as Gary Vee. Well, Gary Vee only has that much influence because he's fucking smart. And for like 30 years, he's been building businesses, and he had Wine Library TV, like one of the first YouTube channels ever, which I'm sure no one watched. And like, especially in the beginning. It's like he people made are 5 years of content, slowly but surely worked his way up, one follower after another.
And he didn't do it for anybody else but himself at the beginning of the day.
Well, it's like, I have a question for those people that actually are obsessed with Gary Vee content. Have you actually watched his content when he was all about just Wine Library?
That's a question for Russ.
You know, have you actually watched
Wine Library, but not
well, Russ has, because he's a student of marketing. Yeah. He's actually trying to help his clients pursue these goals. But how about those clients that have, you know, or prospects which have you actually watched the grassroots videos of Gary Vee where he's talking about where, like, you know, his wine library videos didn't do too well?
Yep. Yeah, we say that
or he's thinking about the attention of like how he converted the people to the library. Like,
it's, you know,
it's like no one has seen that. So it's like, don't mistaken your goals with what you're trying to duplicate. Actually develop your own, understand your audience, what your audience wants, how they're going to come back to your page, and then go from there. Don't just try to duplicate the person that has 10 million followers. And it's like you're starting from nothing.
And then you lack authenticity, and then nobody wants to
see something we talked about last time. Absolutely. And I think it all goes back to the quote me and Russ talk about all the time. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone else today.
It is a long-term game.
Yeah. Well, everybody started with zero.
It's a marathon, baby.
Everyone starts with zero.
Everybody at some point made their Instagram account for the first time.
Exactly.
Well, everybody starts. I remember the time when I made my Instagram.
There's another piece of that. When you're looking at all these other people who have millions of followers, all these meme accounts, there's not everyone, but there are some people where there's a little bit of fuckery afoot. Like there are some
fake followers.
There are fake followers, but also there are some very well-known Instagram influencers who they bought an account. Like I know one is like Summer Rae. People say that her mom bought her a Facebook account of like a porn star when she was like 18 or something like that had like 100,000 followers. That's a good way to start. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. And that makes sense. I'm sure there's someone.
I don't know if people know that that's
I know Summer Rae's probably listening to this.
Going back to that. Going back to that, T, that's still derived from who is your audience and why are they coming back to you?
She picked a good one to like.
She picked a good one. They determined a good strategy. They determined a good content strategy. They determined an implementation plan which would keep those people coming back to you.
Good segue into. Do you want to talk a little bit about like just more information on trend stacking and things like that? Some methods people.
Before we go into that too, like just back to what you said about like just general fuckery, because I don't think people are aware that like that's a thing. Like what you said is like, you know, you can buy an Instagram account, and like many people will invest like 50 grand and buy an Instagram account that somebody built up as a meme account, for example, like just automated memes, and you know, it ended up that Instagram account has a ton of followers, and you can purchase that account from that person and to just change the entire look of that account, and all the followers stick. So if you do that strategically, you can capitalize on those followers. Like if you're smart enough, you buy an account that has followers similar to that you're trying to target and build off of that. But you cheated. You cheated your way, or you you had 50 grand. That was part of your strategy, was to buy an account and start at that level. But that is a thing that a lot of people aren't aware of that you can do.
And something that was much more effective 5 years ago than it is today. So just a caveat to that. It does make sense from a business standpoint, but platforms like Facebook, Instagram do crack down on that. That's why you're not allowed to change the name on your Facebook page in an easy way at all. It's very difficult to change the name of your Facebook page if you're changing it to something different. And Facebook actually, if you go into your pages setting, it shows you all of the pages that you like that have changed their name in the past, I think like 2 years or something like that. Wow. It has it all right there, and it can say, do you still want to follow this person after the name change? Right. So that is a big
So that strategy doesn't even make sense in 2022.
No. I would never.
You'd be wasting time.
I would never recommend that. I have talked to some businesses though that say, we'll use us for an example. If we're a media company or a marketing company and we're looking to acquire a smaller company, maybe that smaller company has a really large following on different social media platforms inside of the business deal. Now you have to purchase those business assets. I was talking to someone about this pretty similar topic recently. And now what's the value of a TikTok page with 100,000 followers? Right. I don't know. If they all follow someone for social media, digital marketing, I don't know what the value of that is, you know, but that is one thing that is definitely current in the landscape, but has changed because when we started, you could buy 1,200 followers on Instagram for $50.
Yeah, that was the Wild West.
That was the Wild West.
And we had clients that buried their businesses because they bought like 10,000 followers because they were like, oh, it's going to give me a boost. And then it's like, well, you crushed all of our organic strategy because now Instagram just sees you as spam.
Yeah, these platforms are smarter than you think, man. Yeah. This is all they do.
And I think people are too. Like,
people know.
Especially people like generally like our age and younger. It's like what you were saying about Heckmet, right? Like she can tell right away. It's a fake account. It's a fake follower. It's an ad. Like if there's not a real human behind it, people can tell. So if you have 10,000 followers, you click on those followers, you scroll through and you can tell 8,000 of them out of the 10,000 are complete spam accounts.
Yeah.
Like the username is just like 0001 with no profile picture. And it's like, oh my, who is this person?
And then you have 5 other accounts
what is
in the comment section posting the exact same things.
Yeah. All fire emojis.
That's a perfect segue into the next thing when we go back to more practical, insights as far as what you can do to improve your organic content, your social media content. There's 2 things that you can improve, right? 1, the image, graphic, the piece of media you're putting out there. And then 2, the caption. Those are the 2 things you can do, as well as, hashtags, but we'll leave that off to the side for now. 1, like piece of practical advice. If you're putting out a photo, people are going to be disproportionately attracted to photos of faces, even if they're not good looking. It's just biological. People are drawn to humans. They like seeing faces. A few years ago, it was like 60% more likely to like an Instagram post that had a face in it, a human face. And then the second most important thing was having like a pet, like a dog or like I think a horse was number 2. And then obviously, if you have a snake or a spider, that's not going to have the same effect as like a cute dog. Yeah. But that's what people are drawn to. So subconsciously, people don't know they're doing that, but they do. And then the other piece is the caption. People subconsciously can tell a spam caption versus a good caption. And this, and for those listening, think about when you're clearing your inbox. You don't know what made you hit delete or unread, but it's subconsciously we've been so prone to, we've done this so many times, we can just smell it.
You associate the certain language with that individual and you know what their goal is already.
Exactly. So that's why I always, like some people are like, we need more, emojis in the caption. It's like, well, freaking maybe not. There's a limit to everything. Some emojis good, some emojis
not so good. So yeah, exactly why. Like, a lot of, growing up, people struggle putting their Instagram captions. Like girls will post selfies and they'll struggle figuring out a caption. So like what makes a good caption and a value-driven caption for businesses?
Well, they've forgotten about, again, who your audience is and why are they coming back to you.
All marketing comes back to understanding.
At the end of the day, if you have good intentions, if you're truly trying to provide value, I don't think you can go wrong. You're never going to be perfect, but if you're actually doing things with good intentions, trying to provide value, that's going to work.
Because we could make 100 different podcasts on like how to break that down, the strategy behind how to keep driving your audience back to you. Like, what is your end goal? How are you segmenting your pieces of content so that they keep coming back and like each post is a story.
Yeah,
and that's where we come in. But it's like, to answer the question of what you just said, Justin, like it's all about like, have you even taken the time to think about who your audience is and why they're coming back to you? Or are you just trying to duplicate what's out there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, are you even keeping a consistent voice, or are you just trying to like,
pander?
Pander and duplicate what like, X account is doing, and like I also need to do this because they have 200,000 followers, and like I have like none. Like it's like no, it's like
you are who you are. Your followers.
Everybody's on a different journey too.
At the end of the day, put yourself in your audience's shoes. Why are they listening to you?
What do they want to see?
Doesn't matter if you have 0 followers. Doesn't matter if you have 20 million followers. Like, why are they listening to you? Okay. Why are they listening? I love that. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, why are they listening to you? Okay. Are you delivering value? And end of story. Are you delivering value? Yes or no?
Yep.
Okay. It's like the person that has built a successfully functioning cash flowing channel of 1 million followers, like they started at some point and they understood the same goal as you are about to pursue on right now, where it's like, hey, how do we keep these people coming back to us? How do we keep delivering value? And it's like, you can't just start at their 1 million.
Yeah.
You need to start at where, like, scroll down all the way, see their old content,
and see
like
how the message develops, see how the voice develops,
exactly.
and you need to find that for yourself. And then some other like just little practical advice. I think a lot of people sometimes they don't, like you said, they don't take a second to think about how do I want to sound, how do I want to come across. One just quick tip is economy of words. Like I see people missing on that all the time. Like, do you need all the right? Economy of words is huge, and what I mean by that is, shorter is typically better when you're talking about copywriting. Read an article on copywriting. Listen, like pick some better words, but like pick words that are associated with your brand. If you're luxury, you're luxury. If you're, the price shopping like brand, that's okay, but be consistent to that, So economy of words, making sure that you actually have a voice in a brand that makes sense. That's really huge. And then to kind of segue, go ahead.
Well, adding more onto that, if we've noticed the recent platforms, like the giants, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Google, all they are really valuing the brands that are putting out authentic content out there, the value-driven content, where they don't necessarily care if you have 1 million followers or like 0.
It all goes back to value.
First of all, think about this. How is it that the person with 0 followers, you might be following them, and like 3 months later, they might have 3,000 followers? Or, 6 months later, that 3,000 has grown to 300,000 followers. How is that?
Good content.
It's because these giants are really promoting just high value,
and how do they
high authenticity
how do they determine
content
that?
Outside?
From like a technical standpoint, how are they determining that? How are they determining what is high value content? What are they looking at?
Well, I mean, in the past, they used to look at a lot of things. What is your text? What is your copy? What is the text on the graphic that might be attached to it? There was a multitude of things, but nowadays they're really focusing on, and regardless of if you're prioritizing Google, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these platforms have really followed a similar route where it's like they're really prioritizing just authentic, value-driven content.
Yep. So they're looking at engagement. And
they're
the audience
they're looking
is
at
the one
value.
The audience determines that, right? Like
exactly.
It's not what you think is valuable.
Right.
If I say, here, I have this house for sale, come buy it. That's valuable to me.
Right.
It's what's valuable to the consumer. It's like the Joe Dirt saying, it's like, it's not about you, it's about the consumer. What do they care about? That's how.
Right. Well, it's going back to the real estate example that you just mentioned, where it's like, okay, we face, how many real estate clients do we face where they're like, oh, I don't want to do the same thing as everybody else. They're talking about the home buying process. They're talking about, referral partners and how we have a team and how we have the best systems in place. And
everyone has the best process.
No. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, you might be that person where that one person is following and they're gaining all this value on the steps through the home buying process and what it entails and how you help them. Yeah, others might be saying the same, but it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
Why is your audience coming back to you? Your audience might be buyers or sellers. For example, it might be based on who you know, who you are. It might be like a multitude of different things, but like, let's say it's buyers and sellers. Why are they coming back to you? Okay, to learn more about buying or selling. Yeah. It's like, if they are following you and you alone, forget the other people, because like the algorithm is driven towards you seeing the other people.
Yeah.
But those people aren't seeing the other people. They're seeing you.
And so to kind of crystallize that, you might think what you're doing is getting stale or boring because you're looking at it all the time and you're looking at your competitors all the time.
Right.
Jane and Sally or whatever.
Focus on your audience.
Jane and Sally only follow you, the one real estate agent. So that audience. Content is new to them. And it doesn't matter. And I hear this all the time when we use, like, say, graphic templates, or we have a brand guide to follow. They're like, well, I like the brand guide, or I like the style of our posts, but it gets kind of boring after a while. And it's like, well, to you,
it's consistency,
but it's consistent to everyone else. Right. And to someone, it's like, you know, to someone else, it's the first time they're seeing your audience. You know,
I think it loops back to your point as far as like, you're not making content for, I think it loops back to your point as far as like, you're not making content for everybody. You're making content for a specific audience. And when you start thinking, oh, well, you know, I'm being too much like this person, or I want to be like this person, like, you're not being authentic to yourself. And then in turn, you're not being authentic to your audience. Everybody, you're making content for a specific audience. And when you start thinking, oh, well, you know, I'm being too much like this person, or I want to be like this person, like, you're not being authentic to yourself. And then in turn, you're not being authentic to your audience.
Correct. And you're doing everyone a disservice if you're not being authentic. That is the biggest thing, because when you do that, you're providing value.
I mean, everybody could have 3 different types of content, but really, like, the way that you present it and that you're showing who you are, like, that's what keeps people around.
That's what I was going to say too, like the personality behind it, the team behind it, how you explain that. You guys, every competitor, you guys all might have the exact same processes, but you explain it a little bit differently.
Who's conveying the message the best?
Exactly.
That's who wins at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think, so like to go to that's a good segue into like a next point, where it's when you're creating content and you're breaking down, like, okay, say you have 10 videos you're going to make this month. What are the topics and what audiences are you hitting? I think it's important to note that it's okay to have different audiences. To go back to real estate, first-time home buyers versus investors. And if you want to go to like something different, like Instagram influencers, there's, you know, girls and guys out there who are just posting good-looking pictures to resonate with the mass audience of people who are like, okay, well, I just want to follow good-looking people who are into fitness. Right. But then there's also the people who need workout motivation, okay? That's a whole other segment of people in a whole different topic of content. And then maybe there's people who are looking for instructional videos on how to use these machines at the gym, or how to do a different like at-home workout. So they're right there, 3 different audiences, okay, all around the same goal of gaining followers, but it's all in the fitness industry. And you can make content totally different around those 3 goals. And you can do that across the board, whether you're in real estate, marketing, fitness and influencer, whatever it is. You got to find that right audience, figure out what they value, and then how you can create content to match their goals. Because it's not about what you like and what you want them to see. It's about what they care about. What will they find value?
It's business 101. Who sets the value? It's not the seller, it's the buyer.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's your main goal to just monetize your channel based on views, just so every single time that, you know, you're going to release a form of content, it's driven towards the goal of just views? Or is your main goal to build a long-term sustainable brand where it's like, okay, yes, you're getting the views. Maybe you're selling a product based off of those views. Maybe you're, you know, selling a fitness package based on, you know, it's like, what is your goal? And there is no wrong goal. There's no wrong. It's like, you just need to be clear on what it is. And you cannot be, you know, basing it off of someone else's success.
Or,
and
like, what you want tomorrow.
What are you?
And this goes in, all right, I'm going to vocab word, marketing myopia. Because that's exactly what it is. It's not about
Can
what
you
is
use
going
that in a sentence?
No, I can't.
Spell it
but
for me.
There's a Y in there, I think. It's looking short-term versus looking long-term. Right? Marketing myopia.
Yes.
Getting caught up in the short term.
Marketing myopia.
Great word. Great term.
Google
I knew it. Yeah. Okay. Getting caught up in the short term gains, like, okay, I want more views. I want more views. I want more vanity metrics, as opposed to what can I do to provide my audience value long term so that they follow me, and down the road, maybe they'll convert into business. That is I think, kind of sums it all up right there. Look long term. Don't worry about the competition. Don't worry about what they're doing. Worry about yourself. Worry about what you can do better, what you can do to provide more value. If that's kind of your North Star, if that's what you're trying to do, good things are going to follow.
That's a great way.
Yeah, I was going to say we can wrap it.
Yep, that's a fantastic way to wrap it up. So, yep, pretty much if you're looking to grow on social media, you have to focus on things like copyright. You have to focus on the content. You have to focus on your audience. And,
why are they going to keep coming back to you?
Things you can control.
What is the value that you can provide to these people? Exactly. So, all right, boys. Anything else that you guys wanted to cover on this episode?
I'm good. I think that was a
good
way to wrap
it up.
Guys.
Fantastic. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time. Peace.